You're trying not to let your trauma define you. You're trying to share your light, but sometimes it feels like that light is getting snuffed out. Like there's this dark cloud that follows you wherever you go. How can you not let the trauma of the past define your present and your future? Mended Light. So I have a question for you. Why do you think people get stuck in the trauma of the past? Like get stuck where they can't heal and they can't enjoy the present or look forward to the future? What is it that is the hang up or the hang ups?
Yeah, I think there's lots of hang ups. I think the first one is when you've experienced a trauma, quite often you've internalized that trauma. And so there's a lot of shame that immediately happens when you internalize the trauma. Because when you internalize it, you think, to some extent, this must have been my fault.
Yeah.
If I had just done this differently, if I had just done that, if, X, Y, Z, something must have been wrong with me, or I wouldn't have been treated this way, right? You cannot heal if you're pretending you're not hurt.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a component of awareness of you have to say, hey, I'm hurt.
Yeah.
This is what happened. And you might have tried to say that, right? But the people you were talking to couldn't support you in that hurt. So they dismissed it, they diminished it, or they said, we don't talk about stuff like that.
And in cases like that, we learn to keep a stiff upper lip, right? Mm-hmm. Stoicism is a double-edged sword. There's a lot of virtues to stoicism and that strong backbone and soldiering through no matter what. I mean, we've seen on this channel several times Rocky Balboa, like, you got to be willing to take the hits and keep moving forward. Like, I believe that. But you also need to make room for the reality of your pain. And sometimes, like you're saying, you share that pain with people and they're not ready for it. And you internalize the lesson, I can't share it with anybody, it's not safe. And the real lesson is, I just need to find the right people.
Yeah. Well, and that's a coping mechanism, right?
Yeah.
Keeping it inside, soldiering through. Good chances are when you were experiencing the trauma, you might have needed to do that to keep surviving.
Yeah, because if I'm in a situation where I get vulnerable or I share that I'm hurting and I'm mocked or ridiculed or even abused, right, or turned away because of it, then I need to hold it inside because it's not safe and it's a survival mechanism. But what happens when I'm trying to build a relationship with healthy people who can meet me there and I'm sticking to the old ways?
Right.
It doesn't serve me anymore.
Right. And you might have spent years in that place of surviving, right? And maybe you even get to a place where your life is really good and you're surrounded by really great people who love you and support you, and you start to fall apart emotionally, physically, because traumas definitely have an effect on our physical health, right? And we think, what is going on? Maybe for the first time in your life, you're in a really good, healthy place, and you're like, why am I falling apart now? It's because your body, and maybe even your soul, knows that it's safe to do so.
Yeah.
It's finally safe for you to get the help that you need.
Yeah. Well, so what does this look like? We're going to turn to one of our all-time favorites, The Lion King. Simba was vulnerable with Scar when his father died. Didn't realize that Scar actually murdered his father. He was vulnerable, and Scar blamed him and shamed him. And Simba learned to run from his problems and to hide them and to try and just focus on the here and now and not actually deal with what he had inside. Nala comes back, and Simba is closed off. Why? Because it wasn't safe for him before. It was a survival mechanism not to open up. He made new friends, Timon and Pumbaa, didn't tell them about his past. Why? Because he didn't think it was safe. And the very survival mechanism that helped him in the past now is hindering his relationships.
Isn't this a great place?
It is beautiful. But I don't understand something. You've been alive all this time. Why didn't you come back to Pride Rock?
Well, I just needed to get out on my own. Live my own life. And I did. And it's great.
We've really needed you at home.
No one needs me.
Yes, we do. You're the king.
Nala, we've been through this. I'm not the king. Scar is.
Simba, he let the hyenas take over the Pride Lands.
What?
Everything's destroyed. There's no food, no water. Simba, if you don't do something soon, everyone will starve.
I can't go back.
Why?
You wouldn't understand.
What wouldn't I understand?
No. It doesn't matter. Hakuna Matata.
What?
Hakuna Matata. It's something I learned out here. Look, sometimes bad things happen.
Simba.
And there's nothing you can do about it. So why worry?
Because it's your responsibility.
Well, what about you? You left?
I left to find help. And I found you. Don't you understand? You're our only hope.
Sorry.
What's happened to you? You're not the Simba I remember.
You're right. I'm not. Now are you satisfied?
No, just disappointed.
You know, you're starting to sound like my father.
Good. At least one of us does.
Ooh.
Listen, you think you can just show up and tell me how to live my life? You don't even know what I've been through.
I would if you just tell me.
Forget it.
Fine.
Okay, Simba has a real chance at connection here and a real chance at a wonderful future, not just with Nala, but reunited with his family in his home where he belongs. He turns from it. Why? Because of the trauma of the past. He's unwilling to face it because he figures, what's the point? And I know a lot of people who refuse to go to therapy, refuse to get help, they're just like, we're going to bury it and move forward. And they are hoping that it doesn't come up and bite them or hurt them, in the future, and it always does. There's a book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. And the things that we avoid never really leave us. They just come up in ways that are unpleasant or harmful that we don't anticipate.
Yeah.
This is gonna cause.
I love something that C.S. Lewis said. He said, it takes courage to live through suffering, and it takes honesty to observe it, right? And so often we might not even recognize, I think we never recognize our coping mechanisms, right? And then we live in them long enough, we recognize that they're hurting us, and then we're instantly like, oh my gosh, it was so stupid. How could I do this? How could I be hurting myself this way?
Or the people I care about, right?
Or the people I care about, not realizing that it came from a place of survival, right? And so we need to meet ourselves with love and compassion and understanding and tell that typically younger self, you did such a good job of keeping me safe. You did such a good job of helping me survive that situation. And I'm grateful for it. And now it's time to let go.
Yeah. I always compare it to the rungs on the monkey bars, right? At a certain point, you have to let go of what got you to where you are. Anything you grab a hold and you move forward, but if you keep holding on, you're just going to swing back. You've got to let go and keep moving forward. And that's what Simba does. And we're going to take a look at this and then talk about how to move forward from the trauma of the past.
Looks like the winds are changing.
Change is good.
Yeah, but it's not easy. I know what I have to do, but going back means I'll have to face my past. I've been running from it for so long. Ow! Jeez, what was that for?
It doesn't matter. It's in the past.
Yeah, but it still hurts.
Oh, yes, the past can hurt. But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it. Ah, you see? So what are you going to do?
First, I'm gonna take your stick.
No, not a stick. Hey!
And now we're just going to let this play because you want to hear Rafiki go nuts.
Get out of
here! I just stuffed Rafiki when I was a kid, and watching this just
Did you
reminded
really?
me. Yeah, I did.
That's adorable.
I had a lot of stuffies. Our girls can buy it, honestly.
You don't love me!
Avoidance serves no one, especially not ourselves. We can either run from our past or learn from it, and when it comes to trauma, it hurts, which is why we don't want to explore it, but it's going to keep hurting.
Well, and we often don't know how to explore it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Right? And that avoidance is what got us through that situation.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it was too much, it was too overwhelming
Right.
It was too overwhelming to face at the time. And I look at this, and Simba goes back, and he is not going to be defined by, here comes Simba, the orphan. What he becomes is Simba, the king. And for all of us, we tend to define ourselves by our traumas, right? I'm a victim. And if we're trying to put a positive spin on it or grow into something powerful, I'm an advocate, I'm a survivor. And something that I learned from you, because I used to think that was the end of the journey. If I've been through a trauma and I can get to advocate and survivor, well, that's a powerful place. But the most powerful place is I'm not defined by it, I am me, right? I'm not a trauma survivor. I am not an advocate. I am not a survivor. It's
part of my story.
Right. I may be all of those things, but I don't just stop there. I am a college graduate, or I am a spouse, or I am a partner, or I am a good sibling, or I contribute to my community. I choose what defines me. That is how we keep the trauma of the past from determining the present and the future, by setting our own course and facing what we've been through head on.
If you've enjoyed this video, check out How Do I Know If I Have Emotional Trauma? What have you done to help yourself move through the traumas of the past and not let them overshadow your present?
Let us know in the comments below. If you need support working through trauma, we have a whole innate healing trauma recovery program that you can be guided through by one of our clinical team. Go to mendedlight.com and schedule a complimentary 15-minute consultation today. Until next time, keep shining. We need your light.